so aggressive.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more they could be doing. Isn't there?
It is 7 p.m. on Monday, August 19th, 2024, and I will call this regular City Council meeting to order. I do want to thank everyone that's joining us this evening, and if Councilmember Whalen would lead us in the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So just want to note for those that are viewing online that we are aware that the camera is not working, but audio is. And then if Councilmember Cedar is absent this evening, if I can get a motion to excuse him.
Move to excuse.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Whalen and seconded by Councilmember Hall to excuse Councilmember Cedar this evening. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. And then just to note for staff, we have Planning Manager Stallnecker, Director Madden, Interim Finance Director Robeck, Chief Hernandez, and City Clerk Tricia Summers. Moving on to item number 3, which is citizen participation. The purpose of the public comment period at this meeting is for those wishing to address the council on any matter. It's not intended for debate or discussion with the public. Please state your name and city for the record, and we kindly remind you to limit your comments to 3 minutes. The first person we have tonight is Chris Sarabis. Did I say? Sorry. Thank you. You're up first if you want. Oh, now. Yep. Unless did you want to speak on your agenda item, or is now good? You can do either way.
Let's do that.
You want to hold off until the actual action?
Yeah, we can do
that. Connor, is that the same for you, or do you want to speak now? You want to go now? Okay, so next we have Connor Whitman. You want to hold off? I'm sorry, I misheard you. Okay, Tom Boyle.
Tom Boyle, 1109 9th Avenue. Thank you, Mayor, Council, and staff for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. I usually come up here to gripe, and now I come up here to praise the city of Milton for another wonderful Milton Days. It was probably the smoothest one that I've been involved with in 15 years. And everybody's doing their job, everything's taken care of, all the way from the Public Works Department and setting up, all the way through the mayor being there for 2 days straight, and the chief and Angeli, and I saw a number of council members. Whitaker, you're excused. You were out of country. You're excused.
True. Thank you, sir.
Just a few things that I noted, and the only reason I do this now is because it's fresh in my mind. And of course, I'll relate to the events committee. There was a few things lacking and a few things that were just awesome. But I noticed that the porta potties filled up pretty quick this year. I don't know if people were holding it until after the parade, until they got to Milton Days. That was kind of the talk there. It wasn't overwhelming, but I use a Santa can almost every day, and these got pretty bad. They got pretty ripe there towards the afternoon. I'd like to bring back the kids' games, the pie eating, and the three-legged race, and things like that we did interim in between bands because it got the kids involved. Although the kids zone was the best I've seen. You can always tell when the kids zone is awesome because there's not a lot of kids up at the vendors. They're all down below. So good job on the kids zone. I'd like to bring the raffle back. That's something that may involve this council. To bring the raffle back. It can be a hassle sometimes, but logistically, but it keeps people at the park. We get that 3 to 5 where everybody takes the kids back, and we try to get the adults to return. and we have that lull, and the raffle usually takes care of that and keeps people there. So I would be in favor of and encourage bringing the raffle back. I had an idea for next year for wristbands for the kids and bracelets for the adults. And that way, because we've always wondered how many people did we have this year? Do we have a big year, slow year? And so if we have volunteers handing out these neck beads and maybe some paper bracelets for the kids, that we can keep track of the attendance of Milton Days. I'd like to bring back and these are a lot, I'm saying me, but these are feedback I'm getting from residents. The raffle was big and the car show was big. People would like to have the car show back. Whether we do it every other year or whatever, that we always, it gets more parade participants, and it also keeps people there because we do the awards later, and it keeps those people there as well. And then just a personal thing is the dunk tank. There was no dunk tank this year. That's always a good fundraiser for whatever group decides to do it. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I mean, dunk the mayor. Come on, man. She's only
That's not happening.
next year. Anyways, from my perspective, a wonderful Milton Days. Thank you all for your support. The police department, the fire department, Public Works, the mayor, council, everybody. I thanked sponsors. That's what I did for 8 hours, was thank people, and it was wonderful. So thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. And I know we normally don't comment, but just in case you leave, I do want to thank you for the role you played in Milton Days. You were missed last year, and your energy really does keep the flow and the energy going throughout the day. So I do appreciate that.
It's an honor.
Yeah.
It's an honor, really.
And I do think that last time we had the dunk tank, I said I would do it for $1,000 donation, but no one took me up on that one. So.
See how I do on that.
Next, we have Jacqueline Whalen.
Thank you, staff, mayor, and council, and audience members. I appreciate the opportunity to make a comment. I just wanted to give an outsider's perspective as I reviewed your packet and your agenda for your council meeting retreat on August 7th. The agenda just listed topics. I understand it's a casual kind of a conversation. Clearly at the bottom it says, no voting or action will be taken. So when I read the minutes, and I really appreciate minutes, informative minutes, and I see under the item B, 2024 capital improvement update, I see second bullet point saying next step, RFQ, which I think is request for quote, will be posted for stage and outdoor meeting space. So my thoughts as an outsider, I think, gosh, they must have changed their vote. Council voted no. Variety of reasons, they voted no. Why would staff invest time and effort in an RFQ if council did not take a vote and say, go for it? So I'm concerned from an Open Public Meetings Act concern. Second issue regarding the stage, the noise. How many of you would like to live next door to the wonderful picnic and event that we have once a year? People who live close by, okay, plates rattling, windows rattling, you know, it's just for 1 or 2 nights. But this is not an emergency shelter you're creating with this stage. It's going to be a performance place. It's going to have folks showing up. It's going to have amplified sound. The impact to that noise is really significant. I was about 700 feet away from the event, from the speakers, windows rattling, and we've got thermal pane windows at home. It's a big impact. So I continue to say no on the stage, and I'm concerned about how you're going forward with it. And I appreciate your consideration of my ideas. Thank you.
That concludes citizen participation for this evening. Is my mic on? It's really low. Okay, perfect. And then, so moving on to additions and deletions. Council, I don't have an addition or deletion, I guess I have a revision. So it was brought to our attention that there was some, what's the word I'm looking for? Grammatical errors to ordinance 2090-24, which is item 6D of your packet, and formatting errors. So there is a new copy in front of you. None of the content has changed. I just want to let you know that we have capitalized the word city when used as a proper noun, so City of Milton, Milton City Limits, and City Hall throughout the document. And then on, let's see, page 1, 2, 3, like page 5, under 9.56.050, C, which is labeled review, hearing, and decision, we indented item 4 and 5 to match the formatting of the rest of the document. And then there was a spelling error back on page 2 under 9.56.020 under definitions. B1, threatened, has been spelled correctly in that item number 1. So again, no change to the actual document as far as the content, just format and a spelling error. So I just want to let you know that replaces what you have in your packet right now for ordinance 2090-24. Are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, which is on page 3 of your packet. I'll take a motion to pass. Councilmember Peretti, sorry.
Oh, it's been a while.
It's been a while.
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Peretti and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker to pass the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Council, we have a very full agenda this evening, and the first item is on page 23 of your packet. It is ordinance 2088-24, the vacation of a portion of Diamond Street. I'm going to turn the floor over to our planning manager, Stallnecker, and then following her review, I will need a motion to open up the floor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is on for action tonight. This is for the vacation of a portion of Diamond Street that is west of 11th Avenue. The city had previously received the petition, scheduled the public hearing, held the public hearing on August 5th. Since then, as is required, the petitioners have submitted the appraised value of $2,500. There was some questions about the appraisal. The appraisal was completed by David Conley, who is an American Homes Appraisal, who is a certified residential real estate appraiser. And per the applicant, is the same appraisal that did the other half of the street a couple years ago. Again, staff had evaluated the request and determined that this portion of Diamond Street is no longer useful to the city as an unopened right-of-way. The northern half of Diamond Street was previously vacated. The city will retain a utility easement over the property, and this would remove the city's responsibility and liability of the property. That ends my report.
Take a motion. Councilmember Hall?
Motion to adopt ordinance 2088-24, authorizing vacation of the portion of Diamond Street west of 11th Avenue.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Hall and seconded by Councilmember Whalen to adopt ordinance 2088-24, authorizing the vacation a portion of Diamond Street west of 11th Avenue. Councilmember Hall, did you want to speak to your motion?
I think it's a win for both the city and the resident that wants to take that over. We still have rights if we need them for issues, so I'm fully for it.
Councilmember Whalen, did you want to speak to your second?
Oh, yes, and thank you very much. And that goes along with what Councilmember Hall has also mentioned, that what we need today for an easement, water, power, whatever it might be, things can change in the future. We still retain the opportunity to use the property for right-of-way on those circumstances. I don't know what's going to come next, but that's my understanding. Am I correct in understanding that?
Planning Director Stalnecker, did you want to answer that?
So we retain the right for utility access, but we do not retain the right to turn it into a street. But it's currently, because we've already vacated the other half, it's not big enough for a street. But we would retain the right for any utility needs.
And that's the city utility use and potentially another entity that's going to provide some usage. And I'm only visualizing in the future. It might be something we don't even conceive of today. But those utilities benefit to the general public are still applicable for use along that road, along that right of way. And that's my understanding, Joe. That's, it's a good thing, what we're doing, as long as we can do what we need to do in the future. So, thank you.
Any questions or comments from council? Okay. Did both of you want to still speak this evening? Yeah? Okay, come on up. And then just make sure you state your name and city.
Treating me like a total neophyte. Thanks, Mayor. I have never done this before. So Chris Sarabia, 405 11th, the property that we were just talking about. I just wanted to take a moment. I would have said it last time, but I'd never done that when I came last time, and I didn't know the rules, and I didn't sign up, so I kind of missed my chance. But I wanted to say thank you to the city. Yeah, and we already addressed I was going to bring up the appraisal question that had come up before. It was actually appraised by the same individual that had appraised the property immediately adjacent to it last time, so the perfectly qualified person. And yeah, I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah.
Connor?
Hello, Connor Whitman, 410 11th Avenue. And I would also like to thank the council. I'm looking forward to the blackberries being removed and not sharing the responsibility of maintaining the area in front of that land. And I can speak confidently for at least 4 or 5 households on that street that we're looking forward to the Sarabias expanding their area and making that a nice addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other comments from the audience? Okay, any further comments from council? Okay. Let's see here. It has been moved by Councilmember Hall and seconded by Councilmember Whalen to adopt ordinance 2088-24, authorizing the vacation a portion of Diamond Street west of 11th Avenue. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Moving on to our next item this evening, it is on page 29 of your packet. It is ordinance 2089-24, a budget amendment number 1. I will pass the floor over to our interim finance director, and then following her review, I will need a motion to open up the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The proposed ordinance provides adjustments to the 2024 budget as adopted by City Council via Ordinance 2079-23 on December 4th. This is the first ordinance amending the 2024 budget and reflects changes that have occurred since adoption of the original budget. These adjustments are detailed in the accompanying Exhibit A, 2024 Budget Amendment Number 1. This ordinance was presented at the study session on August 12th for first reading.
Take a motion. Councilmember Peretti?
I move to adopt the attached ordinance 2089-24, amending 2024 budget as detailed in Exhibit A-2024, Budget Amendment Number 1.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Peretti and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker to adopt the attached ordinance 2089-24, amending the 2024 budget as detailed in Exhibit A-2024, Budget Amendment Number 1. Councilmember Peretti, did you want to speak to your motion?
Sure. Thank you for bringing this forward. We've had budget amendments before in the past years. It was interesting to me that here is the end of, well, mid-August, say, and it's the first budget amendment, which was strange to me because it's like we usually, this would have been the third one of the year or something. So I don't know if it's a peculiar year for that or what the reasons are behind that. It's just different that way.
Yeah, we just kind of got rolling on all the carry forwards and then this budget amendment. And we're anticipating another one for the Porter Way. But yep, we're just rolling along a little bit behind schedule.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a similar comment that, yeah, I'm used to them being earlier in the year, and it's nice. It's actually, to me, it was kind of nice not to have one until August. It must mean that, things are good. But so most of these are rollovers, correct? From the year before?
Not this particular one are changes to the 2024.
To this year? Okay.
Did bring a carry forward of unexpended 2023 budget on August 12th, but it's not required to be approved. We're able to do that by RCW, so yep.
Yeah, I was surprised with this, and you're keeping yourself busy. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you, Mayor. And I thank you very much for the amending. We don't always have a perfect feeling for the next year. And sometimes things have to change, and sometimes things are appropriately changed, of which I think we are seeing today. So the agility of the city and the city council and the finance department to recognize these things at the appropriate time, institute them appropriately as it is today, and it's commendable appropriately. So thank you very much. It's going to happen every year sometime during the year. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. It is an action item. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay. So it's been moved by Councilmember Peretti and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker to adopt the attached ordinance 2089-24, amending the 2024 budget as detailed in Exhibit A, 2024 Budget Amendment Number 1. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Our next item this evening is on page 35 of the packet. It is a contract renewal for our Microsoft products. I'm going to turn the floor back over to Interim Finance Director Robeck, and then following her explanation, I will need a motion to open up the floor.
The city's contract with Insight for various Microsoft product licenses is expiring soon, so they have provided the city with the attached proposal for renewal of these licenses. The proposed contract will continue subscriptions for Microsoft products used on nearly all city computers, laptops, and servers. The contract amount of $29,847.52 per year for 3 years reflects pricing through a cooperative purchasing agreement.
Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you very much. And I feel a little bit misunderstanding about this contract. Who is Insight? What is Insight?
Can we, Councilmember Whalen, did you want to make a motion first, or do you want me to have someone else make a motion?
I will make the motion
Okay.
to approve. Motion to approve to authorize the mayor to execute the contract with Insight in an amount not to exceed $29,847.52 per year for 3 years for Microsoft product licenses.
Second.
It's been moved by let me just repeat it real quick. It's been moved by Councilmember Whalen, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker, to authorize the mayor to execute the contract with Insight in an amount not to exceed $29,847.52 per year for 3 years for Microsoft product licenses. And then Councilmember Whalen does have a question on the table.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and I'm sorry for moving a slightly different direction, because I'm not familiar with Insight. What is Insight? Another separate company within Microsoft, another management company? Who is
Chief
it?
may be able to help me with a little exactly who is Insight, but I do want to point out that this is a renewal of a previous contract with Insight, a previous 3-year contract with Insight. This amount is slightly lower than that previous contract too, but Chief, maybe you can help out with who is Insight?
Insight is the vendor that they utilize for Microsoft as their authorized peddler of their Microsoft products. And I'm sure Steve is probably aware of what goes on with the Microsoft licenses. It's the same individuals that we dealt with when he was here, and they continue to be the ones. So when we try to call Microsoft, they're like, you got to deal with Insight. And so they're the ones that do the true-ups. They ask us for proof of how many licenses we have and that we're complying with the terms and agreement for Microsoft. So they're an agent of Microsoft, so to speak.
And I appreciate that, because I think I remembered that, but I wasn't sure. And I remember, Microsoft has a lot of other, you might say, subordinate groups or informed groups that they utilize.
Yeah.
So it's basically, they're working for Microsoft, and Microsoft is responsible for their performance
Correct.
in satisfying what happens with the city. of
Correct.
Norfolk. And that's fine. It's just kind of a verbalization of what's appropriate. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, did you want to speak to your second?
Yes, thank you. So that was my one question. My second one was, I don't know if a contract of this nature, or I don't want to word that correctly, something that's physical like a construction project, that could make a difference in your vendor because their quality of work. With this, could you go through a different vendor that may, you're already shaking your head, come on, let me finish my question. So it wouldn't behoove you to go through a different vendor to do the same, to fulfill the same role that Insight would?
Well, since I started this contract back many, many years ago, you actually call Microsoft and tell them, hey, I need to have licensing for our servers and systems and whatever. And we are a city municipality. And they'll go, oh, okay, you need to talk to A because they handle our government licensing product and these are the prices. So, I mean, it's just the prices, if you go wherever, it's going to be that price for government entities because Microsoft just uses those companies to do it. They do it the same in education. If you work for a school district, you'll end up going to a certain company because they handle the school district pricing, for school districts and that.
So they're just more geared to deal with the public sector then?
Right.
Thank you for
Thank you.
putting
That
your
was awesome.
employee
That
hat back on.
Yeah, that was.
I'm glad it's still a good contract. That's working.
Yeah.
Councilmember White.
Yeah, someone who has worked in the IT field for many years. It's been a while, but I just have a question because back when I was involved in Microsoft licensing, which was back in the .com era of around the 99, 2000s era, you had a choice between a per seat license per product. And it looks like what we're buying is a per year license with the number of seats built into it. And I'm assuming that this allows for free upgrades through the contract term. That being said, this does seem like a large amount of money for a city of our size. Have we looked at per seat pricing? Because even though they do upgrade Office every now and again, it really hasn't changed in a really long time. Microsoft Office 2000 is still being used, and that would have been a one-time expense. So I'm just wondering, has that ever been looked at? Because this is a 3-year contract for almost $90,000, and it's just for licenses. So that's a lot of money for us, I think. Have we looked at per seat licensing? Is there a reason that we need to have the latest and greatest of everything that Microsoft puts out?
My understanding is that because we're government, they'd only have tiers now available through Microsoft. So they do your tier based on how many licenses you're doing. And so per seat, I don't think that's an
So
option.
you can't buy their products anymore. You can only license them?
If you wanted to go to Costco and you wanted to buy licenses and then have the installation, but with this comes, like you said, all the upgrades and things that happen with the subscription. And from what I understand, this also includes making sure that our storage is adequate and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I could have Evan from Lock Systems come do a presentation for you, but my understanding is that this is what is available to us, and it's the cheapest option as far as I know, unless we were to do some kind of, which when Steve first got here and when I first got here, our infrastructure was incredibly unstable. Things weren't working, and so we immediately put to work to upgrade all of our infrastructure so that we weren't doing, we're at the government level. There's also some other things that come with the government stuff as far as making sure that we're being CJIS compliance and the encryption and all that kind of stuff as well. So what I understand from a layman's perspective is that this is what we're supposed to have as a government entity.
Is this also recommended by our IT contractor?
Yes, this is, and they're actually, when Insight comes and they ask for things, it goes off to our IT vendor for them to review, make sure that this is meeting our needs, because that's also part of the mandate of Lock Systems, is they're supposed to be reviewing and auditing our critical infrastructure needs, what our licensing requirements are. And so when it comes to the actual audit, because we actually go through an audit to make sure that we're in compliance with the user agreement that Microsoft gives. Lock Systems is the one that communicates, talks with them, and then also making sure that we're going to satisfy all of our federal requirements for all of our compliance and encryption and all that kind of stuff. Does that make sense?
Yes and no. It's just because I'm not involved in that negotiation. So I mean, I'll support it, but just from my experience, it seems like this is a lot of money that we don't need to be paying if we purchased software under a different basis. And so, but again, I only dealt with it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that a lot has changed. I understand the server licenses and the SQL Server database licenses in terms of security and encryption. That's where all that stuff happens. But the largest amount of this seems to be end user software, which is the $24,749, the Office suite. I'm assuming although it doesn't say. I don't know what 0365G3 GCC subpar user means. I'm assuming that is what that means because it says you're getting a quantity of 100 of them. I'm assuming that that's 100 individual installations on computers in the city. So
Yep.
I'm just what Microsoft products are installed on individual employees' computers in the city? I guess that would be a good question to ask. Is it just the Office suite? Is that what we're paying for?
Well, there's the things, well, it depends what you call the office suite. That means that it comes with Excel and the PowerPoint and all that kind of stuff, and the new features of AI things, and then the email and stuff like that. I mean, Steve can probably speak to it better than I can.
Yeah, so you're Eric, because I too was in technology from 1986 until 2004 or 2010. The shrink wrap era is what you're talking about, where you go out and you'd buy everything by shrink wrap and you'd come and install it. The problem with that and why Microsoft has gone to a tier pricing is it's actually cheaper for cities, because if you shrink wrapped a city and say you're going to buy, I don't know, if we have 100 seats or 150 seats of Office, that's one product. But now we're talking about operating systems. So you have to have the operating systems be running on the computer, plus the layered products that are on top of that. So the pricing for this, $29,000 does not shock me at all for the size of what we have here as a network, the number of servers we have, what we have out in police cars, what we have, every place that we have around the district or the city here. But so going the route of going out and buying shrink wrap just doesn't work for school districts, it doesn't work for cities, it doesn't work for municipalities unless they're really small. I mean, we're talking 10 users or something, because it's just price prohibitive, because even your updates and your upgrades and everything else then is stacked onto that when you have to move ahead. And understanding what our systems are here with our finance systems and other things that have to ride on top of that, you have to be up to date all the time. And so having a license like this allows that just to happen automatically, and you're not spending a lot of money and IT cost in upgrading your systems all the time. I mean, it's just how it's been like for years that way.
All right, thanks.
Councilmember Strader?
Is Microsoft the only game in town then? Or have we looked at other venues? And what are other cities our size? Or what are they using the same thing?
Microsoft, to me, is the monopoly. I don't know of anybody else that's using any other systems.
Probably not.
Probably not, yeah.
I mean, every Teams invite is Microsoft, and that's majority of what we get these days from everybody, so.
I'm just thinking, should we not look into that? What other?
That would be a lot
what
of
other-
retraining probably for staff if we're not using
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Right. Well, I mean, what are other cities doing? Anybody else got something?
You guys use
I mean,
Microsoft?
your other option is going to an Apple database style, so it's, if you're running on a PC environment, I mean, it's Microsoft with layered SQL and everything else on top of it, but it's either you're an Apple environment or you're a PC environment. And if you're a PC environment, usually it's Microsoft that you have with, I mean, that's probably why they have such an empire, but it's.
Any other questions? Councilmember Whalen?
Well, it's not quite a question. It's more of a comment. We're contracting to spend approximately $29,900 a year. Generally, in the industry that we're dealing with, that's about 2 months, maybe 3 months' salary for one individual. And we're being covered for 3 years within this and so forth. So you might say, if you just look at the price of paying for a particular individual to run the Microsoft, it's 3 months worth of work. And that's what we're paying for. It's not the full salary of somebody working 3 years, which would probably be closer to $400,000 in that environment. So financially, I do not think it's an exorbitant amount. Professionally, I think it is the best we can do. And the relationship we have with them has been very, very good. I don't find conflict with it.
Councilmember Strader?
Well, that being said, I'd still like if we could get some ideas, is there another option for us? And if there isn't, then that's fine. But
I
I
will,
don't think there's any, I mean,
I will ask the question to the vendor,
yeah.
to our support.
I do know that they will probably drop us if we ever went Apple-based, because we've had that
Yeah.
conversation before.
We can all go to WhatsApp or Instant Messenger.
I can't imagine being able to function on a daily basis without Microsoft. I mean, it's just, I mean, today we did our interview over Teams. You know, so, does Wilkeson use Microsoft? Yeah, and they're a small, 3 people? So, okay, any, as an action item, are there any comments from the audience? Okay. It has been moved by Councilmember Whalen and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker to authorize the mayor to execute the contract with Insight in an amount not to exceed $29,847.52 per year for 3 years for Microsoft product licenses. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Council, moving on to our next item this evening. It is on page 49 of your packet. It is ordinance number 2090-24, Code of Conduct for the City of Milton. And again, we replaced the ordinance in the packet with the one in front of you. I will turn the floor over to Chief Hernandez, and then following his review, I will need a motion to open up the floor.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, and distinguished guests, and those out in virtual land. This is the same item that I brought before you for discussion at our last meeting, and the proposed ordinance 2090-24 protects the public health, safety, and welfare of owners and employees of publicly owned property in the city. The city needs a process by which they can exclude individuals whose conduct is dangerous, unsafe, illegal, or unreasonably disruptive. And so I ask tonight for you to give us this tool, to give us the ability to trespass individuals who can't behave appropriately while on city property or city parks.
Councilmember Hall?
Move to approve ordinance 2090-24 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Hall and seconded by Councilmember Peretti to approve ordinance 2090-24 as presented. Councilmember Hall, did you want to speak to your motion?
Yes. I think this is a good ordinance. We've always got to be looking forward to what could happen and what we need to happen and how we perceive what our day of life, our way of life is. So I totally support it.
Councilmember Peretti?
I agree. I completely support this too. I think it's sad that we have to codify civility in the day and age that we're living in right now, but it's something we have to do. When I read through this, it's like, this is not something that I would expect if somebody was on my own property. You know, that I'd want them to be civil and things like that. But it's just surprising that here we are now, because of the time and age, we have to codify something that should be second nature, I think. But
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Councilmember Strader?
Yes, I'm all for this. It's the tools that you need to have in today's world. And I would also like to expand that to not just city property, but to everybody. So that you have those tools as well for those situations.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. As you explained last week, this also gives you not more teeth, but just you can fall back on the code, gives you you've delineated how long and then what you do to escalate, you know, the response to whatever the offense is. And I agree that it's too bad that we have to have a code like this, because it seems so obvious to me that you just wouldn't do those things. But I'm glad you've brought this forth, and I support it completely.
Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief, and I support you. But just explain a little bit of the difference. City property is basically public, and people are allowed to use it. And this constraints and identifies what is a misuse of that particular property. We have the same thing for private property, but in different laws. It doesn't require a city ordinance as this might be. That's already in law within the state of Washington. If you have a trespasser on your property, there's laws against that. So we don't need to define the private property in this same type of ordinance. It is covered elsewhere. This defines and completely covers the city property, the constraints, and the punishments. I like that word sometimes. To protect that property and protect the public within that property also. Almost to the extent that private property has. There's a little bit more constraint that's put on that, but we don't have to warn anybody. You do on the,
Correct.
on the property. So I support this completely.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, it is an action item. Are there any comments from the audience? Okay. So it's been moved by Councilmember Hall and seconded by Councilmember Peretti to approve ordinance 2090-24 as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Council, moving on to our next item. It's on page 59 of your packet. It is an amendment to a contract with Cannon Constructions LLC. I will turn the floor over to Director Madden, and then following his review, I will need a motion to open up the floor for discussion.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. The item before you tonight is an action item with expenditures that are budgeted in the 402 Electric Capital Fund. The city currently has a contract with Cannon Construction LLC for on-call services. Those on-call services are focused on replacement of underground utilities, of electric poles throughout the city, as well as on-call services for repairs and maintenance. We've also utilized this contract in the past to supplement our electrical crew if a vacancy exists with dock crews from Cannon Electric. Those are just temporary in nature while we secure a certified union position as a replacement. We're currently fully staffed, which is fantastic, but our project that we have coming up, which would complete the underground cable replacement at Dock Street Apartments, that was a three-phase project. We are entering the final phase of that project. Our current staff does not have the capacity to conduct a project like that, which takes 3 to 4 weeks and is very seasonal dependent during the beginning of the storm season. So what we've done in the past is we've utilized Cannon to help supplement and support the installation of these underground cables. So our team is able to assist with that project, but then also respond to emergencies. So the project or the question before you tonight, the request is to increase that on-call contract from its existing $240,000 to $540,000, which would allow us to complete this multi-year effort of the underground cable replacement. It would also allow us to have support during storm events and then also pole replacement, which is we can do in-house internally, but if we have 6 to 10 poles that need to be replaced in a run, you need multiple crews that exceed our internal capacity.
I'll take a motion to open up the floor for discussion. Councilmember Whalen?
Thank you, Mayor. Move to authorize the mayor to execute Amendment Number 6 to the Public Works contract with Cannon Construction LLC in an amount not to exceed $300,000 for electric utility on-call services.
It's been moved by Councilmember Whalen and seconded by Councilmember Peretti to authorize the mayor to execute Amendment Number 6 to the Public Works contract with Cannon Constructors LLC in an amount not to exceed $300,000 for electric utility on-call services. Councilmember Whalen, did you want to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mayor. Cannon Construction has been we've worked very intricately with them over many, many years. I can't say this for a fact, but a $300,000 electrical utility on-call services covers about 3.5 people total wages for a year.
For some positions, linemen are on the upper side of those salaries, so I would say it's about 1.6 positions
Yes.
for linemen.
So the work we're getting and the quality of work we're getting and so forth is substantially high. It's not somebody hired off the street. It's a qualified individual with high standing. In the past, we've done quite a bit of work and contract with Cannon. And in some cases, we may have to make a little bit of up adjustment to our contract. But in a lot of cases, we have not exceeded or come close to topping our contracts. It's just the opportunity that we're setting aside enough money to utilize these folks in the need to have this work done. We may not spend that much. We may have to spend more. Depends upon what we see and so forth. So this is not a substantial figure for the amount of work, the quality of the work, the essential product of the work that we're contracting for. It's a highly skilled profession. And this is not extraordinary in dollars and cents for what we're doing, especially for the underground that's happening. So, been in the city long enough and council long enough to know that we have some years where you don't spend a whole lot of money. We have some years that we spend a huge amount because we didn't do enough things prior to that year to fix them. So I'm totally in support of this. Contractor is great. The quality of their work is excellent. And the need to back up and have a team ready to do something is worth investing in and paying later. We're not giving them $300,000 and asking them for what's back. We're paying them for on time necessary, if I want to correct.
That is correct.
So this is the top of the bank that we have to pay for these folks. And it's beneficial to every citizen in the city of Milton to do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Peretti, did you want to speak to your second?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. A couple things. This also brings, do we have, let me ask you this, how many linemen do we have in the city?
We have 2 journeyman linemen. That includes our utility supervisor, and we have a apprenticeship program, and we have 1 apprentice.
Then the equipment operator kind of is with all the
Correct.
the teams in that. Okay. And then you said the Dock Street apartments or
Dock Street Apartments, those, yes, that is a project that has been on our budget. This is the 4th year it's actually been in the budget. We didn't make a lot of progress that first year, but we've secured all of the long lead Okanite cable, and we are ready to complete that effort this season.
I remember when we did this very similar project, I can't remember if it was during your time or before, when we did the Surprise Lake Apartments.
Yeah.
It was probably a while ago.
It's the same. They just renamed themselves. It's the same one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Oh, they changed their name, okay. So they're going back again and having to do some additional work or other sections of that.
Correct. Our first time working with Cannon, we completed a little bit over 1/3 of the overall replacement, and this would complete the remaining 2/3.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm all in favor of this. For one thing, it's a $300,000 increase, but again, it's not like you're guaranteed you're going to pay out all the $300,000 because if you don't use it, you don't pay it.
Right.
Type of this scenario on there. And understanding the expertise you have to have as journeyman lineman and everything else. Anytime you're doing big projects with line pole replacement and all of that, multiple crews, you have to have multiple linemen. You have to have multiple of this and that, and we just don't have that capacity here. So I appreciate it and I understand it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? Okay, it is an action item. Are there any comments? So it's been moved by Councilmember Whalen and seconded by Councilmember Peretti to authorize the mayor to execute Amendment Number 6 to the Public Works contract with Cannon Constructors LLC in an amount not to exceed $300,000 for electric utility on-call services. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Moving on to our next item, it is on page 63 of your packet. It is the purchase of Public Works vehicles. I'll turn the floor over again to Director Madden, and then following his review, I will need a motion to open up the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. This is also an action item with associated expenditures. The city is in need of replacing 3 Public Works vehicles. Those vehicles are number 20 and number 36, which are associated with our water utility, and they have been previously surplused, and vehicle number 29, which is in our electric utility, which has also been surplused in the past. These 3 vehicles would replace those surplus vehicles, and it would also remove some of the operational and maintenance costs associated with vehicles beyond their life expectancy. The attached quote before you is for purchasing 3 2024 Chevy Silverado 2500 four-wheel drive vehicles. 2 of the 3 will have they will have a chassis setup, which means it's the work truck setup. They've got the all of the equipment cabinets for securing valuable equipment while we're out on site, so things aren't getting stolen off the back of the trucks. They also have shovel racks and all of the other components that the team needs to secure their tools while they're on site. The 3rd vehicle would be a standard truck bed. The city will purchase these new trucks off the state contract, and these funds have been budgeted within a few different asset replacement funds throughout the 3 utilities, or the 2 utilities, water and electric.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I move to approve the purchase of 3 2024 Chevrolet Silverado four-wheel drive work trucks via Bud Clary Chevrolet, and 2 chassis via the Fab Shop in an amount not to exceed $203,229.84.
Did you say second, Councilmember Whalen?
That's a tough one.
Okay. It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker and seconded by Councilmember Whalen to approve the purchase of 3 2024 Chevrolet Silverado four-wheel drive work trucks via Bud Clary Chevrolet and 2 chassis via the Fab Shop in an amount not to exceed $203,229.84. Mayor Pro Tem, did you want to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. And sorry about butchering that price. Now, these were, you already said, these are already budgeted anyway. These were in your schedule that you have, correct?
Yes.
So this is really just a formality.
Correct.
Of it, right? And that's what, just like we've always done before. Yeah, I'm glad to see these, though, when they are brought to us with there's one thing to approve it in the budget, but then there's another thing, too, when they come forth and actually then seeing the details associated with those vehicles. So I appreciate that for this purchase, and we've already approved it in the budget, so there you go. Thank you.
Councilmember Whalen, did you want to speak to your second?
Yes, I do, and thank you very much. The Fab Shop and purchasing and so forth, just the overall question. If they deliver and we accept delivery in the city of Milton, who gets the sales tax?
Who gets the sales tax?
We're purchasing them within the city of Milton primarily. So, and that was my understanding with a lot of things that we do purchase. If it is brought here and the contract is signed in the city of Milton, sales tax goes to the city. And we've done that in the past and so forth, and it's comfortable with the fab shop. So you may want to think about that. And any other vehicles.
Thank you.
Why not? The other is, you look at the numbers, and it seems to be, well, high. If I went out to look for the pickup truck I would like to own today, it's probably a $70,000 truck. And it's nowhere near as complicated as this. If I went to a Chevy dealer or a Ford dealer and so forth, let's just say I get a good deal on $60,000. So the pricing that we see for something that is so specific for the demands that we're going to put upon it is not a high number as it appears to feel. If you go out and just went out and looked at a truck, if I got the one I wanted to, it'd probably be $60,000, $70,000. Of course, I'm driving a 2000 Ford pickup truck, so I keep them a long time. The city can't keep them 25 years. It's just beyond that. So this is absolutely necessary. My understanding with the costs and so forth that I'm seeing here and the complexity of the vehicles that we need and the amount of work we get out of them for the period of time we own them, this is a fair deal. So I support it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from council? Councilmember White?
Just curious as to how you choose the dealership that you're buying it from. I can't help but notice that Bud Clary is down in Longview. And it's probably the cheapest sales tax area to buy something from this side of the Cascades. Is that why you chose them, was so that you could save money on sales tax?
No, it was, that's wise, although we'd like the sales tax to come back to Milton. We chose them because they are recognized on the state contract. Bud Clary has many different dealerships on state contract, and they may be headquartered out of Longview, but they have multiple different locations. And so it's through the DES, Department of Enterprise Services, state contract. We work with DES, we plug in the type of vehicle we want, and what some of the attributes are for that vehicle, and then they come back and say who has them in stock. So stock also plays a pretty critical role in who we select. Although everyone on a state contract is competitive in price.
Okay, thanks.
Councilmember Preddy, did I see your hand?
I was just going to agree with Councilmember Whalen. I wish I could have bought my truck for this price. That's what I'm seeing here, but I understand the DES contract and how that works. And, you know, it's just whoever. I think the last time we bought trucks, maybe a few years ago, it was completely another vendor because they had the DES contract at that time from the state.
Yep.
You know, and the nice thing about the DES contract is the state actually goes out, does all the bidding, and then we get to buy off of it. So we're not spending the time and money doing that. So that's really nice.
Any other questions or comments from council? Councilmember Hall?
They have it in stock right now. How long would it take to receive them?
We will be able to receive them. So they have them in stock now. As soon as we put in the purchase order, they will ship them to the fab shop and they will start. Because we're buying them as part of one contract, that lead time is about last week, they said 5 to 6 weeks. We will take ownership of all 3 vehicles when the fab shop vehicles are complete.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, it is an action item. Any comments from the audience? Okay. It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Whitaker and seconded by Councilmember Whalen to approve the purchase of 3 2024 Chevrolet Silverado 4-wheel drive work trucks via Bud Clary Chevrolet and 2 chassis via Fab Shop in the amount not to exceed $203, $203,229.84. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0.
Sorry, Gene.
You jinxed me. Let's see, we have 2 more items tonight. So the second to last item is on page 69 of packet. It is ordinance 2091-24 for an interim zoning emergency. I will pass the floor over to Planning Manager Stallnecker, and then following her review, I will need a motion to open up the floor for discussion.
Good afternoon, Mayor, or good evening, Mayor and Council. So yes, before you is an emergency interim zoning ordinance. The request is to pass this, which would basically prohibit any new applications for industrial uses on properties that are zoned light manufacturing and located along Meridian Avenue East. That is demonstrated in Exhibit A. Those 2 areas are highlighted. The reason behind this is, there's a couple of reasons. So the Planning Commission, as part of the 2024 Comprehensive Plan Update, has reviewed all of the future land use areas, which the zoning map is also tied to. And these 2 areas have been deemed, have been proposed to change from light manufacturing to various versions of commercial. The part of that rationale is that they are surrounded by either commercial or residential or multifamily. And it just seems like the feeling is light manufacturing makes more sense to stay on 99 and Porter. The reason it's before you as an emergency interim zoning is I am weekly getting calls for for parcels within those areas that are wanting warehouses, truck storage, things that are all related to semi-trucks. And I think you have heard from the community and I've heard from the council that that is not the direction that we want to continue to go, especially on Meridian. So if the council chooses to pass this interim zoning, it does because we're asking it as an emergency, which means we're doing it prior to our normal process. It does need what's called a majority plus 1, so we would need 5 votes tonight. It would go into effect immediately. It would last for 6 months, or if the council decided to revoke it. Within that, within 60 days, the city council is required to hold a public hearing. We are recommending that we schedule that hearing for September 16th, 2024. This has been reviewed by legal, so they are comfortable with what we're doing and how it's written. So I'll open it up if you wanted either a motion or for questions.
Councilmember Whalen?
I would like to make a motion.
Thank you.
Move to adopt ordinance 2091-24, authorizing the adoption of an emergency interim zoning ordinance on the expectance of applications for industrial use on property zoned light manufacturing and located along Meridian Ave for a period of 6 months.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Whalen and seconded by Councilmember Hall to adopt ordinance 2091-24, authorizing the adoption of an emergency interim zoning ordinance on the acceptance of applications for industrial uses on property zoned light manufacturing and located along Meridian Avenue East for a period of 6 months. Councilmember Whalen, did you want to speak to your motion?
Make a little note here for myself. We know a little bit about the circumstances that is leading up to this. And it's a situation that is very close to residential and then some interesting commercial use. And where it's located, there's some things about the highway I'm concerned about. with the traffic that goes there. And I'm also concerned about what I saw in the documentation about, well, not really going to have there somebody 24 hours a day, and who knows what's going to go on. That's my feeling, but appropriately so. The zoning where this is being considered and the location for the residential community that's next to it needs to have more consideration of understanding of how this is all going to work. I don't think we envisioned the complexity of what is being proposed in that proximity to residential. I may be speaking out of turn, but I think it's appropriate to take the 6 months and study a process like this so that we have a better understanding of who we are and how we want to grow and what things are appropriate in the city of Milton. So 6 months, I think, is a fair time to do that. And I'm looking forward to what comes from this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Hall, did you want to speak to your second?
First, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission. What they do is extremely important in how our city is going to function. And I totally agree, 6 months, look at it, get some more feedback, and what is best for Milton and how we want, what our vision is. And really, citizens, I'm hoping they come in and give their input, because I think that's important.
Thank you. Any other comments from council or questions? Okay. This is an action item. Are there comments from the audience? Jacqueline Whalen?
Just real quick, Jacqueline Whalen, Milton, Washington. I wanted to express thanks to staff for taking action on this. It's been an issue and a point of concern for several years, and we're finally moving towards finalizing things. But I'm very glad for being proactive on the topic, and I just want to again say thank you. We've had a few other areas in the city that I've pointed to and said, gee, why is this zoned this way? Well, then there might be some history or legend to it. Well, gee, it doesn't really fit. Well, you know, when we do the comp plan and it just keeps rolling along, and so I just want to say thanks for being proactive and getting it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Whalen. Any further comments or questions? Okay. It has been moved by Councilmember Whalen and seconded by Councilmember Hall to adopt ordinance 2091-24, authorizing the adoption of an emergency interim zoning ordinance on the acceptance of application for industrial uses on property zoned light manufacturing and located along Meridian Avenue East for a period of 6 months. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried 6-0. Moving on to our last item this evening, it is a Washington State Department of Commerce grant agreement. It's for your information only. There's no action, but I will turn the floor over to Interim Finance Director Robeck.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As the mayor stated, this is information only. This particular grant agreement comes with no cost to the city to implement. It's an agreement with the Washington State Department of Commerce for Washington Families Clean Energy Credits, and it implements a program to assist low and moderate income households through a one-time bill credit for those households that meet certain eligibility criteria. As I stated earlier, there is no cost to the city to implement this program, and Promise, a private company that works with governments, is partnering with the Washington State Department of Commerce to help utilities administer these funds available. This is a somewhat short turnaround. The credits are available until September 15th. So we're really trying to get the word out on the portal for residents to apply for this. Should be open no later than the end of this week, probably in the next couple of days. We'll be putting a message on utility bills, on Facebook, the website, and the newsletter, hopefully. Some residents who have already received some assistance will automatically have a $200 credit applied to their bill. Others will need to apply for it. So get the word out. Does anyone have any questions?
Councilmember Strader?
Who exactly qualifies for this?
Who's
Who's it targeted at? I mean, what income level?
Oh, it is a certain percentage of AMI. Let me see. It might actually say in here what that is. We are kind of a conduit. Promise it will be analyzing all of the. We'll be determining the eligibility for anyone that applies. So our role. Oh, thank you. I had the AMR part right. Low income is defined as up to 80% of AMI, and moderate income is equal to 80% to 150% of AMI. And AMI is the area medium income.
Thank you.
Councilmember White?
So there doesn't need to be any council oversight for accepting this grant?
No, because there's no money coming in or out of the city.
Okay. However, I see a couple of issues in this contract that I think are problematic. One, it says that the purpose of this is to assist low to moderate income households with clean energy transition. What kind of proof does anyone have to provide that the money is going to be used to do that?
Yes, so this is to supplement low-income housing that meet that AMI threshold. And so that title that is developed by Washington State is not very clear. This will help with the affordability of power for low-income housing. It is not going to push for the transition of those units converting to solar or another carbon-free energy source. And we also, there was quite a bit of pushback in the utility districts about some of the wording, and there's no flexibility from Commerce. Either we have this money that we can then turn over to our low-income residents to help supplement the cost of power, or they lose out on that.
The other thing that I see in this contract that was quite surprising to me was item 22, the pay equity agreement, that if we offer our utility customers this money, the city's on the hook. And I assume that there can be some kind of audit that we agree that we have to pay similarly employed employees the same wage. Has our attorney looked at this? And how is the city going to deal with this if it becomes an issue? Because this also is tied with the termination clause, which has, if they come in and don't like the way our employees are being paid, they can give us notice that we have to comply within 30 days. Otherwise, all the money has to be returned plus all of their costs. So this whole thing seems sort of like a fraud. I remember when we had the presentation by Murray's about how they were having to raise their rates because of the increased costs. due to this cap and trade, what do they call it? I'm sorry. The Washington's Climate Commitment Act. And he didn't know at that time what the money was going to be used for. The fact that this is something that money is going to, these low-income people are probably paying more than $200 extra in gas costs for the year. And even though it says it's to help them with clean energy transition, there's no requirement that anything of the sort is happening with this money. So I maybe you, Mayor, could address the issue of the pay equity portion of this contract. Do you have any concerns about that?
Michelle or Dustin, do you want to, you guys are the ones that oversaw this. Do you have?
One, I know you can add on to this, but one thing that I can say is this is a standard agreement that is going out to any municipality, and I saw it online, even some tribes are being offered any municipality or governmental entity that provides electric services. This is for electric residential utility customers only, and this is the standard contract that is going out to all cities that are implementing or that are thinking about it. When we were going back and forth, and they were kind of wondering why we hadn't signed on so quickly, because so many other entities, counties, cities had signed this agreement and moved forward. And that is part of the reason that we're choosing to work with Promise, because we did have we could have chosen to implement this on our own, but Promise is the provider that has been selected by the Department of Commerce to help cities implement this properly and in accordance with all of the agreements.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, I personally don't care that other jurisdictions are doing this, but I think it's a very bad idea to let the Washington State Department of Commerce inject itself into the employment agreement between the city and our employees.
I'm personally not concerned about the pay equity. I mean, we're a union city, so if there was pay and equity, our unions would be speaking up loud and clear. So that's not a concern to me. Our interim director, Robeck, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've received several calls about this. And if we don't sign on, it is my fear, in my opinion, is it's going to come off that we don't support our low and moderate households. That is my biggest concern, because people have already called and asked, how do they apply for their credit? How do they get applied to their account? And if we are the only city not, what it says is we don't support our low income households, in my opinion.
And Director Madden can probably attest to this more than myself, because he was kind of in the talking with the people in the beginning. But there have been several entities that have gone through this contract in detail and asked for particular edits, and Department of Commerce just stated basically, this is a standard contract. You know, if you don't like it, then the money can go to another entity. And that's what would happen if we were to decide not to move forward with this. Our money would just be reallocated to another electrical provider.
That is accurate. Yeah, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. It sounds like possibly that the tax or the rate that's being put on Murray's, those monies are going to pay for this, and it's really not, it's an energy tax credit. It's to take money off their bill. So we had asked when that came through, when Murray had that attached to the bill and we wondered, where's that money going? You got your answer. That's where part of that money's going.
And it is my understanding from reading more about the program that the money is not tied to, as Director Madden said, is not tied to installing energy efficiency. It's money from the clean energy program that is being used to assist low to moderate income individuals with their electric.
I just was putting two together
Yes.
and going,
No,
oh,
you're
okay.
absolutely right.
So that's what it is. Well, now we have our answer though, where that, with funding possibly.
Councilmember Peretti, did I see your hand?
Yeah, when I was looking at the pay equity, and I agree with what the mayor has said here, I read down through A, B, subset 1, 2, and 3, and all of those actually are fulfilled within our union contracts when we look at all of that. I can see why they can put something like this in there. Just from my experience working with the Department of Commerce, when some entities that haven't been, I'm thinking more of the nonprofit side of the world, could be in jeopardy in some of these areas because they don't have the HR structure and the union contract structure and other things in place that provide these systems in here. But I have no fear of when I read this. I mean, our union contracts settle every one of these items in this list here that we're seeing.
Any other comments from council? Councilmember Strader?
Well, I have to kind of agree with Councilmember White. Why is this language even in there? Let them put that language with those jurisdictions that don't have that. But I think it's just another insertion of the state into how we do business, and I object to it. I'd like to see it stricken. I'm all for having the money afforded to those who need it, but this feels like take it or leave it, or your people can't get the money. So
It is my understanding it is take it or leave it. They're not going to strike anything from their contract.
yeah,
I mean-
that, but
But I hear you.
it bothers me.
Councilmember White?
I'll just make one more comment about the whole overall taxing scheme. I don't appreciate paying more for utility costs, paying more for gasoline, and paying more for everything I buy because everything in the economy is being flown or flows through this act. And I'm personally happy that there's an initiative to get rid of this on the November ballot. But to see that the whole sales job that went through this piece of legislation was to address climate change, and here they are throwing money at something that has absolutely nothing to do with that. And I object to that. And just on principle, I'm voting against it.
We're not taking a vote, just to be clear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But if we were
But-
voting, it's very
but
clear
if-
you'd vote no.
If I were asked to vote on it, I would vote no.
It has been heard. Are there any other comments? Okay. Moving on to council reports. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem this evening.
Thank you, and I'll start out with, I'm sorry that I missed Milton Days, but I was out of country. And I missed my daughter singing the national anthem, but I got to see it recorded, so that's okay. I'm glad it was so successful. I liked hearing the report, of how it went and and ways that it can be improved. I like that. It was like a report to the committee. And I hope that we can implement some of those changes that were recommended because I think they actually are very good ideas. And I like even the what things should be brought back to help keep people there and order of events within Milton Days to do the same thing to keep people there as much as possible. But that's all I have for this evening.
Councilmember White?
I'd like to apologize to my colleagues and for all the citizens that showed up to the parade specifically just to see me because I was ill and was unable to make it. And I apologize for not being there to support all of you in the parade.
Thank you. Councilmember Peretti?
I'm glad to be back, and I hope I am not gone in the future for any of these reasons that I was gone the last few times. It's good to be back in that. I was able to be driving a truck in the parade. That's about all I could do at that time. That was fun to do, although it did set me back a day in bed on Sunday, but that's all right. But it was a good day. It was a good day.
Councilmember Strader?
Well, I want to thank and welcome Councilmember Peretti back. I'm so glad he's back, and thanks for taking one for the team on parade day. So.
Councilmember Hall?
Yes, Milton Days was amazing. I agree with Tom. It seemed like it went off very smoothly. Events committee did an amazing job. I didn't see the stress. I just saw them smiling and enjoying it. Kudos to all our city employees that were there. That's amazing. Police officers, they were everywhere. They were down shaking hands and giving stickers and trading cards at the blow-ups. And they were up on the hill with the people sliding down the hill. So good parade, good turnout. Appreciate it. Oh, and one more thing. One of your officers tonight was on 11th and Emerald and caught somebody blowing that stop sign. So I appreciate seeing that. We had residents out there with their kids saying this is what happens when you don't follow the rules. So it was like a street show. I was just out walking. So good job. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Whalen?
Well, thank you, Mayor. This past weekend's event in the park was wonderful. I didn't spend as much time as I'd like to. I've got quite a few things going on, but from a neighborhood aspect, it was quieter. It was loud enough, but quieter. And that seemed to be very well received in the neighborhood. The stage that was used, I think, was a very appropriate size to fit within the cluster on the upper park. I thought that was smart, well managed. Traffic, well managed. Yeah, I think everybody had a lot of fun. It was fun, the time I was able to spend, it was fun to be there, so greatly appreciated. Please, the park board and everybody else who's involved with it, let them know that from a neighborhood aspect and from the folks I talked to, very well received. And I can't add anything else to that tonight, so thanks.
Thank you. Director reports, Planning Manager Stallnecker. Director Madden.
I just want to update council quickly on 3 projects that are going on. Miles Resources, SR 99 Porter Way. Surveying was being conducted today. Our project kickoff is next week. All long lead items are on their way here, and we are moving that effort forward. I appreciate council's support, and we're looking forward to breaking ground on that project later this week. 19th Avenue and Milton Way, we have a sidewalk project that started today and a signal project. I was able to connect with the Fife School District during Milton Days, and we will keep them apprised of any impacts, although we're trying to minimize those as quickly as we can to the start of school, which is 2 weeks away. All right, that's all.
Interim Director, no. Chief?
Milton Days was wonderful.
Oh my gosh. Is this being recorded? Yes? Okay. There's no live video though, dang it. I know it's a long weekend. Okay, first I want to thank council for a very productive council retreat. I have to say this is, in my opinion, this was the best council retreat we've had. Sometimes there's a little hostility or frustration. I felt like we all gathered and were able to collaborate in a really positive way. And so I just want to thank each of you for coming with open minds and being part of the conversation and directing us on things you'd like to see moving forward. So I want to thank you for that. Milton Days, I will just echo everything that was said. It probably had to be the best Milton Days I've ever been a part of. I do appreciate Mr. Boyle's comments. We do wristbands for the kids zone, so I will get a count on that for you all for the next council meeting. But a lot of the things he mentioned, we don't do due to lack of volunteers. And as Councilmember Hall said, this is probably the first year she felt that they weren't stressed. And that is because we've reined down the activity so it's not just so packed that our volunteers are overwhelmed. So, this was the first year we didn't do the kids zone games in between. I personally thought it was a great addition to not do that and do them down below. And we got our band started right away and we filled that spot with line dancing. Again, raffles, that's staff time, but I do know it brings some people, but it also brought controversy in the past. So I appreciate the feedback, and I definitely will pass it on to the events committee. I do want to say thank you really to staff. They killed it this year. I mean, traffic control was amazing. They all just did whatever they were asked. And then the events committee, of course, the effort, they're on the field at 6 a.m. and some didn't leave till 7, 8 o'clock at night. So without those 6 individuals, Milton Days would not be possible. I do want to give a special kudos to the night crew, which did include myself and Mari Pepping and her husband, and Christy Dean and her husband. We were caught in the downpour. I know we lost at least one tent in that scenario because the top was blowing off and the garbage was blowing everywhere, and we all pitched in to the best we can. So if you heard about garbage in the park on Sunday, we tried our best. So we were all drenched, and it actually was quite comical when you look back at it. So just thank you to everyone. And then the staff that came out as well. Anjali and Dustin both came out, and of course, Chief. We had the Parks Board out there. We had planning commissioners, I believe. Susan a little bit, but Parks Board was out there all day. So, and again, Tom, for those of you, I think all of you saw Tom, he was not there last year and it was felt. And so he spends his whole entire day, and I should have thanked him as well. Friday, he was out with our crew all Friday helping with whatever they needed help with. So I don't know, it just brings out the best in our community for Milton Days. So I can't say enough thank yous. And then just one last reminder that City Hall is closed Monday, September 2nd for Labor Day. So just remember we're closed that day. And so I think we've got all our, so we have council on Tuesday, but as of right now, there's nothing on that agenda. So we'll let you know next week how that pans out. We have a meeting tomorrow to see if there's any last minute items. So I will definitely reach out to council, but it's looking like we probably won't have a meeting that week. But I don't want to cancel too soon because something may come up. So I think we've concluded everything on tonight's agenda. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any objection? Perfect. I will adjourn this meeting at 8:39 p.m.